Excellent. It's okay, you can wiggle your feet at me, I don't ever get offended. And it's always nice that people feel free to be able to go to toilets, or just to go out and stretch your legs a little bit, or to, I don't know what else you're going to do. Maybe I shouldn't think. But anyhow, as you all know, I've just returned from teaching a meditation retreat in Cambodia. And for me it was especially beautiful because I had some wonderful experiences there. It's only a meditation retreat, but instead of actually holding it in a monastery, monasteries were a little bit too busy, so they held it in a hotel. It's not the first time I've stayed in a hotel in Cambodia. One of the first times I went to Cambodia for it was a visit organised by Australian government. And that I do remember just they put me up in a posh hotel. But you should know that I'm a monk. And for years I never slept in a bed. Honestly, you always sleep on the floor. I always prefer sleeping on the floor, honestly. You know why? Because then you can roll and roll. You never feel afraid of falling off the edge of the bed. I haven't done that yet, but I'm scared of it. So anyhow, and it's not like you can cocoon yourself in so many duvets and other stuff to keep you actually in the bed, because it's so warm over in Cambodia. It's very easy to just put one little sheet on top of it. That keeps you more than warm enough. And so if you keep rolling and rolling and rolling, you're going to fall off. I prefer the floor. But anyway, I remember just after the first day of staying in this hotel in Cambodia, doing some service for the Aussie government, and then afterwards the housekeeper came in. When the housekeeper came in, she took one look at the room. Nothing was dirty. Not even the bed had been slept on. And she looked at me and just, who is this guy in this room? I like it when you bamboozle sort of people like housekeepers. But because it's a retreat I was on, after a while, all of those housekeepers in Cambodia, they gave me a gift. You know what the gift they gave me? Honestly, this was the highlight of my recent trip over to Cambodia. They gave me the gift of allowing them to give them a blessing. A lot of them, the one person told me it was actually the cook. The cook in this hotel, he used to be a monk for 7 years. But then he had to disrobe because it was very difficult times in Cambodia. And he said, would you mind, please, giving us a blessing? Why not? And I really enjoyed that. Just all of the staff in this hotel, they came along to the blessing. And it was with the water. You see me doing that. I haven't got any the water for the water blessing here, but you see me do that at lunchtime in the community hall there with the swish and the water. At least they didn't mind it being cold because everything else was really hot in Cambodia. And just the idea of a blessing, somebody who was looking after them. And I find it not really difficult, but kind of unusual always to be looked after without me looking after somebody else. I've done a lifetime of service, and I prefer that service, where you can actually do something which the others first of all thought I would not allow that, but I said, why not? And so it gave a nice blessing for everybody in that hotel. And that was honestly, that was the highlight of that trip, to be able to give. For us, it was a very quiet time of the year over in that part of Cambodia, and it's such a quiet time. The meditation was really nice and easy. It was one of the nicest little retreats I've had for a long time. And it's also the case that when I go anywhere, people are always asking me questions. And these staff, they just wanted a blessing, that's all. Kindness, simple. Sometimes you kind of ask yourself, what do people really want? What people really want is just that happiness and kindness, so they can feel at ease, welcome, nothing to gain, nothing to lose. They can have a nice peaceful afternoon. And it's wonderful when you can give that peace to somebody. Sometimes I ask myself, after all these years, Ajahn Brahm, you've been teaching for such a long time, why don't you retire? Do you think I can retire? You're nodding your head. Why not? That's unfair. You're allowed to retire. Why can't I? This is Australia. You're just exploiting me. But I did remember this one example of this monk who learned how to retire in a very original way. Many, many, many years ago, he became one of my heroes in Thailand, a very famous Thai monk. His name was Chaukun Tape Siddhimuni, a very senior monk, but very special, very kind, very smart, and because of his kindness, he got himself a nice reputation many, many years ago. He was a good meditator, a good scholar, but also a good organizer, just like our latest president, Prem, good organizer. I was just trying to tell him his new duties, all those things he has to do as the president of the Buddhist Society of Western Australia. I'm making sure he opens the doors for us in the back on a Friday afternoon. That was not in his resume when he first read it. But no, just learning how to be kind is the most important part of the resume of being a president. But being kind is the most important. You're representing the Buddhism. That's what I remember I'm supposed to be doing, representing Buddhism. And so this particular monk, he was obviously really, really smart. And so in Thailand, they gave him sort of this responsibility and that responsibility. And soon, before he knew it, he was the second monk in the whole of Thailand, with his responsibilities and his duties. And so what happened to him, that because he was number 2 monk in Thailand, the number 3 monk, who was really ambitious. This is what happens if you're stupid and you have a big ego and you want to have more power. So what the number 3 monk did was he set up the number 2 monk. He accused him of being bad. And because of that, there was a court case and the number 2 monk was convicted. He didn't do anything wrong at all. It was a set-up. But he had to go to jail. What happens to a monk if you get convicted in the court and get sent to jail? For him, he was totally innocent, but he can't wear the brown robes in the jail, so he just wear the white robes. I think what I would do, I'd just wear the white robes, but not wash them until they got brown enough, so I look like a monk. But anyway, because he was sent to jail, did he complain? Now, I often say this, whatever happens to you in your life, see the wonderful side of it, the beautiful side of it, the advantages in whatever happens to you which you don't expect. And so for him, he was given his own prison cell. He had food brought to the cell in the morning, and for the rest of the day, he had nothing to do. No one could come into his cell to ask him questions. Sometimes I look at that and I kind of crave it. Go to a prison cell and people will leave me alone because they have to. But anyway, I read his autobiography. It must be in the library somewhere. It has been translated into English. The autobiography of a chap called Tape City Mooney. But anyhow, so he had this great freedom. He didn't have to do any work at all. So he wanted to catch up with some of the reading he's done before and some of the writing, and the rest of the time just meditating. He was totally safe. He didn't have anything to do, no work to perform, no cleaning, nothing. No one to argue with him. That's a problem in the lay world. Do you have a partner in life who doesn't argue with you? That's one of the nice things about being a solitary monk. I don't know how it happened to me that I'm the head of the monastery now, so lots of people who argue with me. Is that true? That's about time I went to jail. If you won't let me relax and retire, forced retirement in jail. But anyhow, for 2 or 3 years, he enjoyed every moment of being in a jail. He didn't feel guilty. That's the other thing which, again, someone asked me this evening. We always blame ourselves no matter what happens, even though you haven't done anything wrong at all. Sometimes it's just what happens in this world. You get put in jail for something you never did. You get accused of things which you didn't do. What are you going to do about that? Why do people feel so guilty? Even when they're totally innocent, when they've done the very, very best. We judge ourselves much more harshly than we'll judge anybody. And that's really unfair. Always treat yourself like you would treat others. And even though that monks like me keep suggesting that to you, would you do that? Would you learn how to forgive yourself very easily? And that's one of the reasons why in that first book which I wrote, there was a story at the very end of the worm in the pile of dung. It's one of my favourite stories. I was reminded of it because on the way back from Cambodia, I was flying through Singapore, somebody recognised me there, and they said, "I really loved your book about the worm in the pile of dung." And they reminded me of it. And if you don't remember that story, it's a beautiful story. Every time I say it, I always add a few more details to make it more interesting. But the first thing is, when I first wrote that, it was actually being published by some people over in United States. And the original the original title of that story was The Worm in the Pile of Shit. But they said there was laws in the United States, you couldn't publish a book with the word S-H-I-T in it. You're supposed to be talking about free speech. Other people say it, so why can't a monk say it? What do you think? Is that fair? Anyway, so I couldn't argue. So eventually they called it Worm in the Pile of Dung. But the story is brilliant. The story is about these two monks. It has to be a Buddhist story to get into a Buddhist book. Two monks. And one was a very, 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 very good monk. Always helping others, looking after people. And that monk got reborn once he died in this beautiful heavenly realm, where everything was just so beautiful and so fragrant, and the food so delicious, and the scenery was just so gorgeous. It was a heaven realm. But then after a while, you have a friend. So after a while, he's wondered, what happened to my friend? He should be dying soon. So he decided to go and check up on him. He certainly wasn't alive in his former life as a monk. So he went looking for him. Wouldn't you go looking for your friends after many, many years? Even some of the friends which I had, as a young student, I still have that friendship towards them. And I always remember one of those friends, I was surprised actually how over those years we've got closer together. Over those many years. And that's that guy, I think I introduced him here, he's been here to Perth before. That was that theoretical physicist, Professor Bernard Carr, who was the collaborator with Stephen Hawking. So he was famous. He finished off as the Emeritus Professor of Theoretical Physics at London University. So he was a high flyer. But he's also one of my friends, but also not just, the thing which I liked about him more than anything, was we're not just friends because of theoretical physics. We want to expand that further. Why not use, all of that intelligence and machinery, laboratory equipment, to actually experiment with things really interesting. So the thing really interesting we wanted to experiment with, ghosts and psychic phenomena. And even right now, I think he's still the head, the president of the London Society for Psychic Research. Now you know how many ghosts there are in London. So we investigate them. We don't go running away from them. We want to find out about them. So we hear there's a ghost somewhere, and we just go and check it out. And honestly, I think I've told you this many times, but it just fits in here. One of the things which I discovered, and I'll say this total honesty, that it's not that you're afraid of ghosts. You find that ghosts are afraid of you. Honestly, one of those times I went looking for ghosts. This was in Thailand as a young monk. You went looking for them, because the monastery where we stayed, that Wat Banana Chat, you may have heard of that. That was Ajahn started that for the Western monks. That place was also a cremation ground. So that's where we'd go and burn the bodies. And often we'd had to have, like one monk would volunteer to stay up late there, next to the cremation ground, to make sure that some people, when they died and got cremated, they didn't burn that well. And so we had to be there with a stick I remember doing this many times, with a stick, and just pushing like a leg which had fallen off the fire, back into the fire. And sometimes with the stick just trying to scare the dogs away. Because the dogs, that was their food. So many times I did that. So many times, you were in the forest alone, looking after the deceased corpse. So do you think you saw some ghosts? Real ones? You bet. And that one time when I said, okay, let's come and really check them out, I went walking after them, looking for them. And eventually, in the forest, eventually saw one. And these ghosts are real. That's why I'm just going to tangent, that when I was doing a cremation for one of the Buddhists here, absolutely true story, as I cross my heart and hope to die, but I can't actually say that anymore, cross my heart and hope to die, because I'm just anticipating that on one of the matters we're going to discuss at our AGM on Sunday is about arranging a subcommittee to decide on how Ajahn Brahm's going to die on my funeral. I think our committee members, the BSWA, they're going to be discussing Ajahn Brahm's... I'm perfectly healthy, okay? I'm not hiding anything from you. But you're going to discuss about my funeral arrangements. Is that true, Mr. President? Yeah, you see. Please understand, Buddhist monks have a totally different understanding about death and funerals and stuff. So anyhow, I went looking for... That's because, you're based on evidence. I went looking for ghosts. And just like looking for evidence of ghosts, and that time when I was doing a funeral for one of the Buddhists here, and it was a burial, and if you do burials over here, they always, I don't know why, they give the Buddhists the burial sites so far away from the gate. It's a long walk, when you're doing the procession. The hearse is going behind you, and I was walking at the front with this lady. She was from, I don't mind saying, from BSWA. You know that funeral director here? When I first saw that name, I actually mispronounced it, BSWA and Odia. I think Odia was a much better name for funeral services. But anyway, just asked me, got any good ghost stories? I was interested. I wasn't sort of trying to tease her. I said, oh yeah. She'd been in the business for such a long time. She was one of the senior funeral directors, and she told me that often she's in the office at night alone, and sometimes she has the door open. It's like a hot day or something. It was a hot day, and she sees, the ghost walk past the door. She recognised it because she has to, put it in the box and take the photos and make sure it's well cleaned. She recognises it. And the ghost walks past the door. I said, what do you do? Are you afraid? She said, no, I've seen it too many times to be afraid. What do you do? And I'll never forget what she said. She said, I tell it, get back in your box. And she was being honest with me. He does that so often. Get back in your box. So anyhow, so I went looking for those ghosts, and you found one. And so as soon as I saw one, like a Tychos, went walking after it, getting as close as you possibly could. And as soon as it saw me walking towards it, it was scared. And it shouted out to me, what, you can see us? Oh yeah. And that was really scary for that ghost. But I wanted to find out why. So when I went up to the ghost, I asked any more of you around, and they had quite a few more around. And we had a conversation. I'm not a crazy. And the conversation which we had is, how does it feel to be a ghost? Why are you scared of monks? Wouldn't you like to do an interview? If people would believe me, I'd have put that in a magazine and just said, a personal interview with real ghosts. And so, but the evidence is that real ghosts, first of all, you can speak to them, even though I had a basic understanding of Northeast language, and they were Northeasterners. It's also, you don't worry about, you're not speaking with your mouth, you're doing it with your mind. So you can understand them perfectly, and they can understand you. And number two is that you heard that they were so confused. People had just died. What do we do? What was supposed to happen? So as a monk, you could literally give them a Dhamma talk, just a few words, and they were very happy. And the other thing is to try and make them happier by doing this old tradition of sharing merits with them. Where you share merits with them, it's actually your merits, the goodness which I had done, basically giving with that to them. You've heard that tradition before. That really works. That inspires them. And many of those ghosts can take a rebirth. And those who don't take the rebirth, I said, what else do you want? And I was quite surprised that they asked me for this Thai chili paste. It's what they like to eat. So I promised them, I did do it. I put some chili paste out in that spot for them the next morning. Because I know as a monk, for lunch they had this and I never ate it. I couldn't take it. But I put some out for them. That's just an act of kindness. It's a beautiful thing to do. And that's why, some of the kindness which we emphasize, in the Dhamma is so important. And, that's kind of just carry on what I was doing at university. And doing the experiments, finding out and not being scared of these things. Finding out what truth really is. Not by what you read in books, because too many people are scared to investigate those things. And because they're scared, they don't actually believe anything. They'd rather run than investigate. So one of the things, again, always know that you never be scared. And if someone in your family has died, they may have died in the other side of the world, they can come and visit you so easy. I don't know, people sometimes call it spirit body, but just like mind to mind. Wasn't that a wonderful thing to do? Your old dad can come and say hello and say, look, thank you for what you did, you done nothing wrong. Have you ever had that experience? Honestly, most of you, if we ask you, may even say yes, you have. And it's because that's so reassuring for you to know that somebody you loved is kind of at peace. And it's good for you too, you can make them feel at peace. Both ways it just really works. And because of that, that's why it's a simple thing to give to each one of you. The biggest problem is the fear we have. Watching too many movies, and the movies are there to try and scare you, because that's why people want to watch more. You don't have to be scared by ghosts. They're actually very nice. But anyway, how did I get into this? So, those friends which I have had over those years, and we talk together, we discuss things together, and we still keep in that idea, that open mind, which is able to explore and find out what's going on, to learn more about life. And of course, in a place like Kampuchea, there are many, many sort of ghosts of the past, and they've had a very difficult life. And that's one of the reasons why, the first time I went to those killing fields, have many of you been to those killing fields in Cambodia? Just huge amounts of energy. It's not dark energy, but very, very, it kind of sucks my energy out. And of course I want to give more energy out, as much as I can give. Simply because people just, I can feel what they must have felt. How on earth can anybody do this to one another? How can people treat each other so unkindly? Even just some human beings. Why on earth can't you get on? Be kind to one another. That's some of the experience I've had in my life. When you're kind to one another, my goodness, it really is inspiring. In my life, I'm still working, I haven't retired yet. One of my memories I have, one of the most beautiful experiences, not just in meditation, but just in learning how to build bridges between different societies. Was, I think it was in about 2000, where I did make enough effort to actually join in multi-faith ceremonies. And one of those multi-faith ceremonies was usually held every year in St. George's Cathedral here. It was the Commonwealth Day experience. Commonwealth was like a group of nations who tried to have harmony with one another under the auspices of, that time, the monarch of England, the Queen. And anyway, because I went to all of those interfaith services, which were those times only ceremonies, one time, thankfully, because of the Dean of St. George's Cathedral, he said, "You give good talks." He said, "Why didn't you come to our cathedral and give the Sunday sermon?" You know, when I became a monk, that was the last thing I thought I would ever do, to give a Sunday sermon. How many of you went to that Sunday sermon? Prem? Yeah, you did. Were you inspired by that day?
Yeah, I was amazed at that heckler. Remember that? Wasn't there a fundamentalist heckler?
Oh yeah. Without them, it wouldn't have enough, power. So there was, apparently, the dean of the cathedral should know this because he's done all the research. Apparently, he said that's the first time in any country of the world that a Buddhist monk has given a Sunday sermon at a full Eucharist in a cathedral. Yay! And sometimes, okay, I'm not supposed to be proud, but sometimes I like that. And he gave the first sermon. And what happened, I remember as it started, that once the word got around, a Buddhist monk was going to give a sermon at a cathedral, then that's right, the media got hold of it. And it was channel 9 or 7 or something, because I don't watch the TV, I'm not quite sure which channel is which. But anyway, the first problem I had was when they wanted to do an interview for TV with me. And I remember going in, to the studio just around the corner here, and they said, before you actually go in front of the cameras, Ajahn Brahm, you have to do makeup first. And that was embarrassing for me. I'm a monk. I'm a man. And then I've got a choice. I said no. So I remember just going to the makeup. They put some stuff on your face so it looks like normal. And Ajahn Brahmali went with me. And he was teasing me all the time. That didn't help. But actually doing that interview, which meant people found out about it. So there was a demonstration outside by fundamentalists. And then they had some of the workers in that church sort of managed to get hold of them and throw them out. Many of the Buddhists who were there, they could stay. And I gave a nice talk, and those talks which I gave were very, usual talks. This is why I'm coming back to it. Like the person who got reborn as a worm in a pile of shit. Because what it was doing, it was like ordinary lessons which apply to everybody. And so so I really enjoyed that teaching similes such as that at the cathedral on a Sunday sermon. But the result of that was honestly, I didn't know which of the people were the Buddhists, which were the Christians, and which were whoever. But they all enjoyed the talk. And it also gave a great deal of harmony afterwards. The majority, that's a big church, that cathedral, and it was packed. I don't know if that normally happens on a Sunday sermon, but that day it was really packed. And I enjoyed it immensely. But anyway, back to one of the stories about I was very proud of that. Very happy that you could actually make that happen. But the story of the worm in the pile of dung was that second monk, eventually that monk who went to a heaven realm found him. And he found him, my goodness, what did you do you never told me about in your life? You've been reborn because of that bad karma as a worm in a pile of, let's just say it, shit. Now what would you do if you found your friend had such an unfortunate experience, was reborn as a worm in a pile of dung? You said, look, it's a terrible rebirth, but I'm a heavenly being now. I can make you escape. I can take you from this stinky, smelly pile of shit you've been reborn into up into a heaven realm. You can come and live with me. What do you think the worm did? The worm said, look, before you take me up to heaven, I want to ask one question. Is there any shit up in heaven? And no, of course not. So we don't have any of that stinky stuff up in heaven. It's just all beautiful and clean and delicious. And the worm said, look, I like my shit. It's warm. I don't know why you call it smelly. It's fragrant. And it's my food. It's delicious. Do you want to try some? Henry, no. If there's no shit, I'm not going. So what would you do next? The heavenly being thought, if I can only show my old friend, now reborn as a worm, what heaven is like, I'm sure he'll be convinced it's a nice place to go. So the heavenly being, with his very delicate, clean, soft hands, plunged it into the pile of poo and tried to grab hold of the worm. And the worm didn't want to go. So he started screaming out, help me, I'm being worm-napped. He said, well, okay, not a kid. And because he was covered with this stinky, slimy stuff, he didn't want to go. He kept on escaping. If you don't want to go, it's very hard to grab a worm who's already in a pile of dung. And so he kept on going deeper and deeper and deeper into the pile. And the heavenly being would not give up that easy. Many times he put his hand in that pile of dung, trying to pull the worm out. Many times. But because the worm didn't want to go, it always escaped. And I like that story because sometimes that's what I think I'm doing. Trying to get you out of your pile of and take you to where I live. Sometimes I get you quite close to freedom. Sometimes I get you to come to our retreats over in Jhana Grove. Sometimes come visit monastery. And sometimes you get you so close, I don't want to go. What happens? You crawl back into your pile of shit. And every week you tell me how it is in your pile of shit. Yeah, of course I know. But that's the kind of story which the Christians really loved. It applies to all of you, doesn't it? The Buddhists as well. So what it's doing is learning how to explain, like Dhamma, real life, in ways which people can relate to, even though they laugh, they feel a bit embarrassed. But it's so true, isn't it? So we try our very best. I think the problem with that story was it's a bit too extreme, from shit to heaven too quickly. So usually we do it from shit to reasonable food, and reasonable food for something a bit better and a bit better. Too quickly, don't want to go. But the wonderful thing is, there is like peace and happiness in this world. There really is. And when you can show it, live it, so other people can understand it and experience it, that's what makes it inspiring. That's why you come here on a Friday evening. You hear the same stories week after week after week after week after week. And people often say, why do you keep telling the same stories? Because you always have the same problems. So anyhow, I enjoy myself as a monk. And you managed to get to some interesting places. Like Cambodia. And say some beautiful people. I don't know, I was told by many Thais, so be careful if you go to Cambodia, because there was a conflict in Cambodia, between Cambodia and Thailand, only recently sort of kind of settled. It's very peaceful there, it's a beautiful country. That's one of the reasons why you have to be a bit adventurous and to challenge people's perceptions and actually see the truth of things. And just how kind everybody was over in Cambodia. They were just so happy to see like a Western monk willing to go over there to teach. And especially they couldn't hardly believe that I've been a monk 52 years. It's a long time being a monk. You still won't let me retire. But at the moment I don't feel like retiring. I have too much fun, enjoy myself too much. But one of the other things I was going to talk about is that whenever you want to retire, it's nice to retire temporarily. You know what I call temporary retirement? Going on retreat. That's why there's so many people on the retreat which I taught over in Cambodia for 9 days. They came over there and they meet some amazing people. One of the amazing people who was there was this 9-year-old boy from Hawaii. Came with his auntie and he has amazing meditations. And so you meet these kind of like prodigies who inspire you. And these aren't little kids who play around and run around. They're almost there for every meditation. And you see things like that and think, wow, there's such amazing people in this world. And when they see there's a monk who takes them seriously. Do you remember that young girl who used to come here to meditate? Was it Sarah? You remember Sarah? You remember her, yes. She would always come and meditate here with her mum. And she would meditate. She would never just fall asleep. And that was one day. She was only a small kid, 6, 7, 8, I forget how much. But then I remember one of our members here, remember Bianca? So Bianca, I saw it happen. It brought tears to my eyes. This poor little Sarah would always wanted to meditate and would meditate. But look at the cushions you have. They're built for grown-ups. And one day, Bianca made her a small cushion, especially for her. And when Bianca presented this young little girl with her own meditation cushion, sewn specifically for her, soft, her size. Then she burst out crying, and so did many other people who actually saw that. It's a beautiful act of kindness, compassion, to help somebody who really wanted to meditate and so young. It turned out to be a lovely girl. And anyhow, that's one of the reasons why we continue on, and we use meditation as a lovely place where we can relax and rest and meditate. But it also has some amazing results. For any of you who have young kids, I still remember this story of a couple of the members of our Buddhist society years ago. He was a deep sea diver, and so he would, when he went, I think to mend pipes in the sea and deep down, and he'd often sort of deep in the oceans, he'd have amazing experience with huge animals. And because this was the animals' realm, not human realm, that they would come and just sniff him and just wonder, who is he? They never attack. Violence wasn't part of the situation there. But once he got to the surface, he had to spend a day or two resting, so he didn't, what's it called? Get bends? Yeah, decompression, yeah. And anyway, so he spent a lot of time meditating and reading. And he says, a nice job for him. But then when he got back to home with his wife and a couple of kids, that he would, always want to meditate there as well. And I advised him, I said, well, look, whenever you get a home or build a home, don't just think of, is there enough bedrooms, washrooms, kitchens or whatever. Why not make sure you have like a meditation room in your house, like a spiritual room? And he thought that was a good idea. And this was such a long time ago. The place he chose for his meditation room was the cupboard under the stairs. Now apparently this was a long time before Harry Potter came along. Now you think that's not really original, but in those days it was. So he cleaned out the cupboard under the stairs, put cushions in there, made it very beautiful, and that became his meditation room. So him and his wife would go in there many times a day, especially in the mornings, maybe in the evenings, to meditate. It was private and it was cool under the stairs. But they had a rule that the kids were not allowed to go under the stairs. Only the parents. The opposite of Harry Potter. And so when they went under the stairs, the kid had to keep out, for the sake of privacy and peace. But then they noticed this one amazing thing happened, and they loved telling me this story, that on one afternoon, there are two kids, there's a boy and a girl. The boy was the elder, the girl was younger. The boy and the girl had a fight, and it was the boy who hit the girl, his sister. He hit her on the face the first time in her life. You can imagine the emotional distress of this little sister. They were playing, but maybe she was playing a bit too aggressively. But then her elder brother sort of hit her. And that was so confusing for her. The only thing she did was to run into the cupboard under the stairs and sit down to relax. And they found out that the kids were using that meditation cupboard by themselves, naturally, simply because it was a place of peace. What a wonderful thing that is, in addition to your house. If you can have one place in the house where even kids recognize it's a wonderful place to just rebalance your emotions. whenever there's an emotional disturbance. And the last little story before I ask for questions, that I told someone else today because we were talking about just getting the latest building approvals for Jhana Grove Monastery. It may come up during the meeting, I'm not sure, on Sunday, about a new water tank in a shed at Jhana Grove, something simple. But I was just saying that sometimes it's difficult to get building approvals for things. But in those old days it was so easy to get building approvals for things at Bodhinyana Monastery. And I knew one of the reasons why. When one day this gentleman came up and he said, "I'm retiring tomorrow, and this is one thing I wanted to do before my last day at work. I wanted to come up and say thank you, Ajahn Brahm." That's not what he said. "I want to say thank you for your car park." There's a car park story at Bodhinyana Monastery. And he said, "Well, who are you? I've never seen him before." And he said, "I'm your building surveyor at the Shire of Serpentine Jarrahdale." And he explained it. He said, at that job, the person who approves the building plans or has to say no to them, said it can be very stressful. And every time I have a stressful day in the Mundijong, in the Shire offices, I get in my car and come to your car park for half an hour. That's all I need. Because somehow the energy, the peace, the kindness, the simplicity of that car park is all I need. Open the windows and just soak in the atmosphere for half an hour. I never told you. But anyway, thank you for all those hours I spend there, de-stressing. And that's just like those kids. That's how you can de-stress. That's why I invite you in your house, if you've got some stairs, clean it out underneath, or some little space you can just have a little meditation room for yourself. And then you find your kids will go in there because they can feel the peace, and it's so attractive. It's a place where you can sort of heal any emotional hurt, that you can be more healthy, and so can the family around you. And also the dogs and cats as well, they love going in there. We used to have a cat years ago, that Kit Kat. And I still remember that sometimes it would run into my hut when I lived in the hut. And it would get into the warmest place in the hut, which is the bottom of my sleeping bag. There's no way in the world I could get that out. The cat got in there and it wouldn't come out. And I like that. You share your room and your life with animals. I'm not calling them pets because I think the Kit Kat thought that I was its pet. I think you know what I mean. You know the story of that Kit Kat? One of those stories? I promised I'd tell it today. And that was when, because it's a cat, it was born in monastery, lived all its life in the monastery, and it was killing too many birds. And so what do you do? So we had a Sangha decision, that's all the monks' decision. We have to find another home for that cat. So our president at that time lived in Waterman's. Waterman's about 6, 7, 8 kilometers from here. So, because it was basically my cat, that I called it over, and it trusted me. This is what really hurt. because I used this trust it had in me, and I picked it up and put it in a bag, and put that bag in the back seat of a car, actually where your feet go, so you couldn't see out of the window, and drove that cat all the way to Waterman's. And that cat had never been outside the monastery in its life, except on one occasion to go to Byford to get monasticized, so it wouldn't have any kittens. And so apparently the lady kept it in her house for about 4 days, trying to make it used to its new home. And the first time, after a few days, it let that cat out of the house. The cat ran so fast to the garden gate, and the lady could not catch it. So went down the street, and the lady got in her car and drove around the suburb of Waterman's looking for the cat. Couldn't find it. And after about 2 hours of looking, she gave me a call. It was a Saturday afternoon, and I was out here getting ready to teach meditation. And she said, "I'm terribly sorry, Ajahn Brahm, I've lost your cat." And I replied, "You haven't lost my cat. The cat's right with me right now." Sitting next to me, drinking some milk. It was so thirsty. It had found its way. It's no joke. The real cat had ran from the house in Waterman's and made it to Nollamara in under 2 hours. I couldn't do that, even if I knew the way. And cats, they don't have a GPS, not in those days. And to this day, how could that cat find me? And you may say, "Oh yeah, it found you over by running to Serpentine." And this was a smart cat, not a dumb one. That would take hours. You'd be worn out after you get to Serpentine from Waterman's. It did a much better job. Just went from Waterman's, must have been an almost straight line across the freeway, and made it to a nice home. So I always admire the psychic abilities of pets, of animals. They're amazingly smart. Anyway, I did promise I would shut up. I do agree I speak too much, but the things need to be said. So anyway, any questions? Okay, yes. No? Yes.
Ajahn, you mentioned that there was a 9-year-old boy in your retreat. Now, for some reasons, actually, we don't allow anyone at Janagro under 18.
We don't have any?
We have, based on this safe Buddhism thing, we can't allow any children under 18 or 16, something like that.
To do what?
To attend retreats. So,
this was over a Singapore-held retreat.
Yeah, I know. So is it time to reconsider that?
Oh, yeah, certainly, yeah.
Yeah. And not only in our BSWA retreats, actually Janagro themselves stopped a child from coming to one of the Sri Lankan monks' retreat based on that. And he was turned back, and it was very embarrassing for the whole family.
Yeah.
The rest of the family was allowed, not the child. He was the child was not 9, I think must have been about 15 or 16, but he was turned back. So is it, we are going too far into...
It could be. It'd be wonderful for the teacher there to actually to ask him, interview him, talk with him, get to know him. If somebody you really know, I know that sometimes we really think that our kid is much smarter than he really is. And if it really is a smart kid, and he wants to come his own will, not his parents, wanting him, then that'd be a different story. Because a lot of times, just, you have to amend some of those things. If it really is safe, we know it's safe for him, then of course, let him come. Okay, yeah. When you see things like that, you don't want to hinder a person. If they're really getting into the meditation and they're doing well, of course they can come. Okay, yeah? Next question. If there is another question. Where? Oh, in the back. Oh, yeah. Over there.
Hi, I just wanted to ask about, you mentioned about kindness, and recently I've noticed on social media in particular, two subjects that have been quite creating a bit of division in the community. One of them is the rise of the far-right group One Nation.
Yeah.
And the other one is the Palestine conflict. And I've personally shared things about this, being concerned about, obviously, the bombing of families in Palestine and the xenophobia and racism of the far-right group One Nation. And I was just wondering, how is it best to address people when they do comment on those things in the negative?
In the negative, in other words...
Like when people are making negative comments and they're supporting One Nation or they're supporting the bombing of families in Palestine, how do we respond, in the best way to respond to that?
Well, sometimes these are questions which I come across and I'm kind of dumbfounded myself. So the wise thing to do is, where did these ideas come from in the first place? Why do people actually support, like right-wing stuff? It must be that their existence is threatened, or they think this is right. And it can't be right. I think I'm very proud of our Buddhist society here. We have people from all parts of the world, and the more parts of the world, the better. So why can't we... I thought this was so long ago, we judged a person by, the colour of their skin, or by where they were born, or what their parents were like. That was such a long time ago. So I think leaders of society, should actually stand up and say that what you're saying is absolutely wrong. Mrs. Hanson or whatever it is. And it's totally wrong. But why do people support that? They must be so desperate. And also, have you ever met Palestinian people? Of course I've met many Palestinian people. And it's disgusting what's happening to them. People think, oh no, you need to do this for the sake of the future. No way. So I can't see that having any momentum for the future, because people are wiser. Please speak up. So many times in the past, and you've had like migrant groups, seeing good old Mukta there in front of me, Bangladeshi. But then the what's it called? The senior vice chancellor of UWA is Bangladeshi. A great guy. And what's your job now? Where's he gone? Is he still here? The Bangladeshi, who's now a member of our committee, he's already gone back home. He's gone home. I've gone home, okay. But he's having his the 20th marriage anniversary with his wife tonight. Sorry? So it's wonderful to see that. How many Australians are here this evening? Really? You don't look indigenous to me. I think you got the idea of what I was saying. How can we judge people like that? And it makes absolutely no sense to me. Is it something which is growing, or is it just... How come? Okay, now, very good. Yeah. I think that's more likely. There's no elections, and people feel they have power if they get to be Prime Minister, or... You know, it's usually a burden having any kind of power. That's why, you don't want to be. I'm just talking that a lot with the fellow monks. You don't want to be abbot. You don't want to be the spiritual director. And you do that as a service, and you really mean it as a service. Personally, the happiest I could be is to go on another 6-month or 6-year retreat in my cave, honestly. You don't want to sort of tell people what to do. You want to encourage people to be kind. Just like 6 or 7-year-old boys. You want to protect them, but not tell them what to do. Same with that Safe Buddhism initiative of making sure that there's no violence, or there is no coercion or offense between anybody in a Buddhist center, in a Buddhist world. That's really off. And it's not just off, it just makes it very difficult to get the effects of things like meditation. If you feel you have to protect yourself in a Buddhist temple or a meditation retreat or a monastery, how on earth can you feel safe and at ease to close your eyes? And that's one of the nice things I hope that everybody knows. If you close your eyes at Bodhinyana Monastery or a Dhammaloka Center, you're not going to be robbed. You're totally safe. Otherwise, meditation can't work for you. You can't let go unless other people are keeping precepts. That's why those precepts are really important. And not just hurting or judging another person. Imagine what it must feel like. And if you're in Palestine, you're just living your life, and then somebody bombs you and takes away your house. So that's what type of religion or philosophy actually allows that? Makes absolutely no sense. I don't know how that's promoted in the media. One of the problems which I have, it's a nice problem, you don't watch TV. You haven't got a clue how that message gets disseminated. And it's such a stupid message. Don't people go to schools and learn, what's right, what's wrong? And learn from the messages we've learned, through blood over so many years. So anyway.
Ajahn Brahm, this is not my question. I'll ask question after this, okay? A short comment on what the person asked about Pauline Hanson. When I first came to Australia in 1988, you know what the motto was? Asians go home, And from Pauline Hanson's mouth, Asians, I can't stand them, You know what? How I felt, Do you know how I feel? I made a decision to come here, and this happens, how it cut me,
Yeah.
I just want to make this comment. I'm not going to say anymore, okay, yeah. The question, okay, my question now is, okay, you mentioned about ghosts, earlier,
Oh, yeah.
the Brahm, and the what I call the heavenly beings, and the, on psychic powers. I want to ask you, do you think we have Ajahn Brahm like this? What you call the guardian angel in us? Or our guardian angel is like devas, or when we like in the altar here, in altar, and in the what I call the in Vajrayana.
Yeah.
When we pray, there's all these devas, who can come to help us, isn't it?
Yes.
You see, there's this one way to, there's one way, external way, okay? The other way is we do meditation and use the Buddha's teaching from the mind, If you think positive, if you think the mind is foreigner of all states, okay? If you think we are well, you're well. If you think even you're well, if you think you're sick, you're going to be sick,
Correct.
Yeah. And then what about you think, Ajahn Brahm? Sorry, like there's one way, okay, to deal with our problem, In the other way is, if we, like there are beings who can help us, isn't it?
Yeah, yes. But a lot of times that those beings get more attracted to helping you if you're a good person.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
And also chanting from people like monks, giving chanting, you say, train, that helps too, isn't it? The energy.
Yes, certainly. Yes. But anyway, look, sometimes I claim I'm an Asian too. It's true. I'm a Caucasian. But I mean, that doesn't really sort of help, because it's more like what you look like, not who you are.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Okay, very good. Question from Poland. Are outbursts of anger, irritation or frustration stored emotions? No, you're storing the wrong emotions there. Improperly stored emotions. Good emotions, kind emotions which inspire you, which keep you healthy, they're good to store. But anger, irritation or frustration, the emotions which cause them should be let go of as soon as possible. And why do you keep those things? They're really harmful, they're dangerous. Question from the USA, how do we become short-sightedness? It's actually being someone who is interested in finding better truths. If it's short-sighted, it always leads to some conflict somewhere, some bad results. If it is long-sightedness, wisdom, it always leads to peace and happiness. It's I understand now. That's why we have schools. And schools to train people to be wise, not just be able to pass maths exams. Can you tell that old maths joke before we finish? The one about the kid who never did well at maths. It was really holding him back for the rest of his studies. And they tried everything, private tuition, extra tutors. The one thing which worked was when they sent him to a Catholic school. And after a couple of weeks in a Catholic school, his grades went up. And they asked him, how come that all these other schools didn't work, and when you went to a Catholic school, immediately, your grades went up enormously, very quickly? And he said, Dad, when I first went into that school and I saw that young kid nailed on a cross, I realized they take maths very seriously. So, sorry about that. I thought you'd all had heard that joke, but you're laughing, so you must have not heard it for a while. Question from India. How do we overcome defilements? Keeping precepts, meditating, and listening to good Dhamma. Practicing. This is what Buddhism does, overcoming defilements. And that's, how do you know that's true? We all say that. go and see the people who teach the Dhamma. And if you see they have far fewer defilements than others, you know that this is the truth. Okay. Can I go now? It's Ivan's mate. Who said no? No, thank you anyway. Thank you, I tried my best. But that was a good question, a tricky question at the end about the right-wingers. And sometimes you see that in passing, but because you don't keep your head in front of the TV too much, actually hardly at all, sometimes you don't realise. There's another question. Go on, quick.
Hello, my name's Jessica. Got a quite an odd request.
Yeah?
I'm from the UK and I've recently moved here. I've got a close friend of mine in the UK and she's not very well, but she is a Buddhist.
Yes.
And she's asked me if I possibly could ask you for your autograph just on a piece of fabric
Of course.
that I've got, and then I'll obviously send it to her. She'd be very, very grateful for that.
Excellent,
That's
of course I
something that
can.
you would consider. She follows you quite a lot and really likes your work and thinks
Yeah.
that you're fantastic in everything you do.
That's very nice. Excellent. Her name's not Pauline Hanson, is it?
How did you know? No, her name's Leslie, and she's a
Leslie.
lovely lady.
Okay, great, yeah. Certainly I'll do that. What we'll do, can we do the bowing first of all? And then I'll do the... But yeah, no, I'll find a pen somewhere. Is it okay we keep the camera on for a few minutes so you can get evidence I'm signing it? But let's do the bowing first.
Sukati Pano